Hey, this is Kyle at Projection Hub, and today we're going to be talking about how to create a business plan for a real estate agency. So maybe you have been a realtor for a different brokerage, maybe on the side or part time, or maybe you're jumping in, feet first and becoming a realtor all at once and setting up your own agency. Today, when I'm taking you through this business plan, I'm going to be looking at this from the perspective of if you were trying to get approved for a business loan or financing. And so maybe that looks like finally setting up a formal office or bringing on another agent, but we'll get into that details. But I'm going to be going through this whole template, this pre-filled business plan example that you can get for free down the description below, no strings attached. And I'm going to be using this example use case to go through and mainly highlight 5 key areas that I think are kind of the most important when it comes to trying to get approved for financing. So now, what experience do I have to be able to talk about this? So first of all, Projection Hub, we have helped more than 50,000 small businesses create financial projections for their business plans, loan applications, you name it, including many real estate businesses and real estate agencies and realtors. And before my time with Projection Hub, I was actually an SBA lender for 7 years. So that job consisted of helping people prepare loan applications, reviewing their business plans, reviewing their projections, and just making sure their lender package was ready to go. And that included several realtors and real estate agencies as well. So some experience, coming from that. So if at any point you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or leave us a comment and let us know what you liked about the video. Feel free to subscribe to the channel as well. Not all of our content is around, realtors and real estate agencies, but just a lot of content around running a business, managing a business, financial management of a business, and some tips and tricks that you might want to stick around for. So without further ado, we will go ahead and jump into this now. Okay, so why do you need a business plan? Maybe it sounds cliche or maybe it's really obvious to you already, but the purpose of your business plan is to not educate the reader or the lender on what a realtor is or what a real estate agency does, but rather to demonstrate your specific plan to reach the goals that you have set for yourself. And most importantly, if it's going to be a lender, you're demonstrating your plan to basically pay back your loan and to be successful. And so they're going to want to make sure they see exactly how you're going to do that and make sure that they believe it's a realistic plan that you have a high degree of likelihood to be successful at. And so what I first want to show you as we're kind of going through things here is if we just look at the structure here in the table of contents, you can get an idea of the different areas we're going to cover. And again, I mentioned we're going to be covering 5 key areas. So as I go through the business plan and we get to those 5 key areas, I'll stop, talk a little bit more, give you some examples, maybe do a demonstration. But the first thing I want to point out is that you'll notice the business plan isn't super long. And during my time as a lender, one myth that I commonly heard was people thought that their business plan needed to be super long to be good or to be respected or be taken seriously. And I think that the opposite is true. Now, you don't want it to be too short. You don't want it to be 4 pages or 5 pages. But when I received a 50-page business plan as a lender, there was just no way we were going to read all of that. And so that really is a risk for you, because that means the important details that are kind of spread out over 50 pages might get missed, might get lost. And so when you make it more lean and trim down that business plan to 15 pages, 18 pages, it's just packed full of important information, and it makes it, hard to miss the good details for the lender. You'll also notice that over half the business plan is the financial projections. And that is by design. Financial projections are the most important part of your business plan. The additional detail we're going to talk about is important, but your financial projections, a lot of times the financial projections are the oversight or an afterthought, but they should be really top of mind, and we're going to get into why that is the case later on. So let's go ahead and start walking through the structure here. First off, our executive summary. I want you to think about the executive summary as kind of like a cover letter to a job or to a resume for a job application. So here you're going to just some really high level stuff, overview of the company, who are you, what are you doing, the objectives. You can have a mission and statement here. What are your keys to success? Sometimes people will include some financial information, maybe like your startup costs, how much financing you're looking for when you assume to be profitable. Some people include that in the executive summary. You don't have to, but kind of rolls right into the company description here, which is really just an extension of the executive summary with just a little bit more granular detail. So your company history, this could be like your founder story, basically, maybe a little bit of like the owner experience, your legal structure, what makes your real estate agency different. Now, I'm not to say that no matter what you say, all agencies are the same. I don't truly believe that. I think that there are differentiating factors, but to an extent, when you have like a pretty regulated industry, it's hard to be dramatically different than those around you. So you got to control and focus on what you can do differently than those other people, and make sure you point that out in this section. And then your target market, in the area that you're going to operate, is it really affluent? Is it, are you looking for quality over quantity, or are you just trying to do as many, listings as you can in maybe a lower income area, or whatever you need to define in there, make sure you kind of outline that. All right, moving along here to our market analysis. And this is going to bring us to our first of the 5 key points. So before I explain what that first point is, let's just see, what we've got here. So I want you to think about the market analysis is of like, you're analyzing your specific market that you're going to be operating in. So don't be thinking about this as like the housing market as a whole. We're going to be talking about this like the housing market where you're at specifically, because it may not follow the same trends as national data or even statewide data if you're focused in like a specific city or a suburb. And so you might outline here your direct competitors. So who are the realtors and the real estate agencies doing exactly what you're doing in the area you're going to be doing it? List them, maybe mention what they do well, what they don't do well, or any of them, do any of them have really poor reviews? This isn't to badmouth those companies, but you want to emphasize where you think the gaps are and the opportunities are. So if there's one other really notable real estate agency in your town and they have a ton of terrible reviews, you might mention that as an opportunity for you in your business plan. And that will lead us up to key point number 1. So what we really want to avoid in our business plan is this mentality of like, build it and they will come. So the more we can show tangible research and effort, the better in our business plan. This can be a little tricky, I think, for the market analysis, because it is just based off of like the housing market in general in your area and how that's ebbing and flowing. But, an example of one way you can do this is I said perform relevant keyword research to analyze some search trends. So this is a free tool, Google Keyword Planning Tool. So you can make a free Google AdWords account and then come to Tools and Keyword Planner. And this basically just lets us see how often are specific search terms being searched each month in a specific location. So I'm located in Indianapolis. My fictitious real estate agency is going to be located in Indianapolis. And so I wanted to see like realtor near me or realtor in Indianapolis. And let's just see what we've got here. So this is going to do a few things. One, it's going to show us other keyword search ideas that are related, which is helpful. It's going to show us on average how much of those being searched. You can also see here these little spikes. That's trend data, and there it zooms up for you. It's trend data, which is helpful to see. And what I think is most important is these two, pretty much the trend data basically. And so we can see here, 3-month change is more how you're going to check seasonality. So like if it's up, then that might be an indication that you're in a season where people are getting ready to list or to buy more. And then year over year is going to be a broader indication of the whole market of like, is there demand for people looking for realtors in that area? Now, again, this is more of a demonstration of demand and not supply. So there may be plenty of realtors or real estate agencies in the area. This isn't going to tell us that. But if we're seeing a lot of positive signs here, which we are in my area, that's an indication that like there is demand. There's a lot of people looking for realtors and real estate agents to help them perform some sort of transaction. And so that's a promising thing, right? So if I've got my location dialed in and the things that I want to show up for when they're searched, and I'm seeing positives like this, I want to include that in my business plan. That is proof of research that I'm like, there's demand here, right? So include that in your business plan. That's at least better than just saying like, I'm going to open up a real estate agency and people are going to use me, right? It's a little bit more of an effort than that. So include those kinds of things. All right, moving forward on to marketing and sales strategy. This section should be a little straightforward for this industry because your product or service is kind of standardized, but please feel free to elaborate on how you're going to do something differently. Whoops. Okay. And so again, please feel free, like you can outline here, even though maybe your product, like your pricing structure, your fee structure isn't different, do include your typical fee arrangement or your goal. Maybe, I don't know if you negotiate that or if it's standardized, but include like your product is more than just the exact, service you provide, but maybe how you're going to do it. How's your customer service going to be? How are you going to make people feel more comfortable using your services? And then, you're probably going to include things like, we'll have a website. We'll do some advertising. To refer back to this also gives you an idea of the Google Ads competition. So that can be helpful too for that tool. But those are all things that are kind of expected to be in this section. You're going to have a website. You're going to post on social media. You're going to be sending emails. That's all great. Key point number 2, though, is something called, can you demonstrate what's called traction? Traction is a little bit of a technology term in like the tech space, but more so it's, you want to be able to prove that you have some momentum, that you're hitting the ground running. So when it comes time for you to get the loan or for the business to officially open, you're not just choosing to start then, right? You might already have some things in the works and things are kind of moving in the right direction. So any numbers we can put to that, any data we can put to that is going to be really helpful in the business plan. Let's take a look at some of the examples here. Now, to take a step back, this industry is one that might be a little difficult to do a lot before you can kind of officially open. Probably the best example of that would be if you have maybe been a real estate agent, maybe on your own or on the side with like under a different brokerage. Maybe you've been doing that for a little bit. Maybe you've been moonlighting or just doing certain times of the year, building up that experience, building some connections. If you have been doing that, include that in your business plan, right? Maybe that's how you've been building a foundation of some referral sources or, regular clients or something like that. That is an example of traction, or it's a better odds that you're going to acquire customers doing that than versus choosing to open your doors and you haven't done any work yet. Example number 4, this might be as a result of example number 3. Perhaps you form a strong relationship with a home builder or a condo developer, and they're going to have regular new inventory, and you try and negotiate exclusive rights to those listings, by offering favorable fees to that seller. Maybe that relationship comes about because you've already been doing it on the side or something like that. So I'm not telling you have to do these things in order before you, get a loan or open up your business, but any sort of details you can hustle and are increasing your odds of likelihood, include that in your business plan, no matter how small those numbers might be. All right, moving along to operations and management. So here we're going to talk about kind of like your team, how you're actually going to make the machine work. Again, it's relatively straightforward, I think, for the industry. I think in this example, we start with 1 agent and maybe work up to 2 agents, and maybe we have some admin help. And so we're keeping the team pretty lean and pretty simple. We talk about, some of your connections, talk about how you're going to manage those relationships. But the key takeaway here is, again, to talk about the relevant industry experience. At the end of the day, your lender wants to know that you know what you're getting yourself into and that you know what you're doing. So if you have all of the experience you need to do everything, talk about that. Highlight that in every aspect you can. If there's a gap of experience you don't have, but you don't have anyone else with you, be prepared to try and defend that or to address that fact. But also you might supplement that with a partner or a key employee that you say, like, I'm not an expert in this area and I don't have this experience, but Robert Liu is going to be joining the team and he has experience doing this thing, right? So you're filling that gap with someone else's experience. And that's the main takeaway you want to get out of this section, is demonstrating you know what you're doing, you know what you're getting yourself into. And so you're not spending money and wasting time at the beginning of your business figuring those things out. And your lender can be confident, that their money is in good hands. All right, now the big one, the financial projection. So here you can see we've outlined our startup costs, how we're going to spend those startup costs. We have kind of an overall summary here of 5 years worth of revenue projections, our operating expenses, our profitability. Here's some realtor specific data. Like I mentioned, we're going to start out with 1 realtor and grow that up to 2. How many sales, like home sales, are we planning to have? Profit per purchase, commission per project. Like there's some overall data here. There's some key ratios there for the business. We have our monthly operating expenses outlined here. And then we have 5 years of income statement or profit and loss projections, balance sheet for 5 years, and cash flow projections for 5 years. And then we've got a break-even point here and some sales growth data. Now, this is typically the part when a business owner or a founder like starts to get really overwhelmed because they're like, I don't know how to create that. And I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. So all of those charts and graphs that I just showed you, we were made using this template. So this template was built so that you could do this on your own. It was built by an accountant, by a CPA, so you don't have to pay an accountant $2,000 to have your projections made when you can fill this out for yourself and generate them. Now, it probably looks overwhelming. Maybe it looks kind of scary, but I'm going to show you. It's very easy. You're only putting numbers in these blue tabs inside these blue boxes. And it's very limited information, right? It's kind of like answering questions. Here we're outlining, we're going to have 2 realtors. One's going to start a couple years later. Estimated number of houses and referrals, how often they're going to convert those referrals. Again, this is a lot of information. We're only touching these blue boxes, right? So it's information that you're going to know. You're estimating how many leads you're going to get, average target property price, growth rate, commission that you're going to be giving to agents. Then we're going to have our operating expenses, right? So by month, here's a nice starting list of expenses you should be thinking about. You might be able to, you'll have your custom list, so you can modify these to add some, take some away if they don't apply to you. And then if you have additional labor besides realtors, right? So we have a receptionist put in here. So you're putting in simple information, and then it's going to generate all of these charts and financial statements for you, exactly what your lender is going to need. Again, we were lenders before our team so like we know what should be in a projection. And if you use our template and you fill it out, you get free support. And when you complete your projections, you can submit them to us and we'll give you a free review. We'll create a video. We'll say this is what we would change. This looks good, so you can feel confident that you know what you're doing. Okay, so that's the end of that little commercial. Key point number 4 isn't just having projections. You need to have projections. That's kind of, again, a minimum requirement. Sorry, I scrolled away from there. Key point number 4 is making sure that they're realistic and kind of within industry norms, industry averages. And you may be wondering, like, well, how would I know that? And the answer is not as flashy as you would expect. It's just going to Google, or if you're comfortable using a tool like ChatGPT or an AI chatbot, just ask it. I asked it, what are some key financial metrics, average key financial metrics for a real estate agency? And it's given me, more information than I probably need here, but let me pick some of these out. I see net profit margin, 10 to 30%. I go back to my projections, net income, which is what it's saying, net profit. And that was, what was that? 10 to 30%. And one thing you'll find about real estate agencies is that the ranges for averages are quite wide because home prices vary greatly in different areas. Fees will be different in different areas. The size, your expenses might be different. So it can change quite a bit one-to-one, but we'll just still go through this exercise. So you can see that we're pretty conservative, right? 10 to 30 was the range. We're starting at 6, growing up to 15. I think it's better to be conservative on the income side. And so I think as a lender, I would be pleased to see that because I think that that's down to earth. That's realistic. If this was 40% across the board, then it's like you're clearly missing something. And so that's a good practice. You can also just do straight up Google searches if you'd like. But again, real estate is a little bit tricky. This is about commission rate, right? So you can find commission rates to make sure we have the appropriate commission in here. So yeah, that's what I mean by realistic is You've created your projections. You can submit them to us. We can give you feedback. But also, you're just doing some searching. You're just doing some fact finding, checks and balances to make sure your numbers aren't crazy, and that when your lender gets it, they don't think that you're living on the moon when you're looking at your projections. If you stick with me to the end of the video, I'll give you a promo code to get that template for yourself at a discount if you'd like. But moving along here, that pretty much brings us to the end of the projections, except for this last point, which is called demonstrating skin in the game. And this is specific to if you are getting a loan. And this is just to advise you to have realistic expectations. Just like if you're going to go buy a house, you come in with the expectations that you're going to have a down payment. So you're going to have that cash. And then also, your loan, you're signing on the dotted line, and you're putting your house on the line, a lien. Basically, you're putting a lien on your house. And so if you fail to pay back that mortgage, you're going to lose your down payment. You're also going to lose the house. It's very similar with the business, right? If you're asking someone to give you money, they're not going to give you 100% of the dollars. They're going to expect you to contribute some. 2, they're going to ask for a personal guarantee. So you're going to be on the hook for that loan. And 3, they're going to want to try to collateralize a loan. So when you get a mortgage, it's collateralized with the house. When you get a business loan, if it's not an equipment or asset heavy business, they're still going to want to try to see that collateralized. And they typically do that with personal assets. So in a real estate agency, you don't have a lot of equipment. You don't have assets. And so, they might want to see that collateral shortfall made up with a free and clear car that you own personally, or a second mortgage on your house. And so I just want you to be prepared for that. You don't have to offer that out of the gate, but just know what you're willing to offer and what you're not. When I was a lender and I would work with a business owner, a lot of times they would say to me that they received the advice to keep their business and personal separate, so they didn't want their name on any of the loan. And I would say that's great advice when it comes to bookkeeping, their bank accounts, taxes, all that kind of stuff. It's terrible advice when it comes to getting a loan because it's very unrealistic. You are going to be responsible personally for the loan, and that's just kind of the nature of business lending. So have that as expectations, know what you're willing to provide, and if the lender wants more than you're willing to contribute, then just be okay with the fact that you're not going to get that loan. And so that is where you have it. That's the 5 key points to get lender ready for your real estate agency. Go ahead and grab this business plan template down in the description of the video for free. And as promised, if you'd like that projection template, you can use PH20BP to get a 20% discount. There's a link to it directly. If you have questions about the template or using the template, contact us at support@projectionhub.com. I also have a video walkthrough of how to fill out your projections in here too that I think will be helpful. So if this video was helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks.